MediaMarchersUnlimited.com.
I'm Kenneth Chamberlain Jr., and this is the Kenneth Chamberlain Report.
Gotta give us what we need. Hey, our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power. 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 We got to fight the powers that be.
Good afternoon. My name is Kenneth Chamberlain Jr., and I'm here with Dr. Cornell West, holding a town hall meeting to discuss oversight and accountability in questionable police shootings. The way that I guess spoke to Dr. West and got him to come up was speaking at an event at the 1199 building in Manhattan, where we were honoring the death of Ramarley Graham, who was murdered by police officers in the Bronx, New York. After I finished speaking, Dr. West sat next to me and he asked me what was going on out in White Plains, and I spoke to him and I told him all the issues that I was having and different challenges I was facing out here in White Plains. And I simply said, I need your help. And his words to me were, I'm coming to White Plains. And him being a man of his word, he's here today, and we hope to have a very wonderful event today. It's a bit overwhelming, but because it just makes me think more and more, and I really come to the realization that my father is no longer here, Kenneth Chamberlain Sr., who was shot and killed on November 19th by White Plains police officers. But at the same time, it is my hope that Dr. West's presence is going to bring about a movement or make the movement in White Plains just that much more powerful, so we can get some type of justice for my father and many others. So again, Dr. West, I thank you for it.
Brother, I'm the one blessed to be here. Absolutely. It's brothers and sisters who are being unfairly treated in White Plains. When I heard you speak, I was moved by your spirit. So this is a brother of integrity and decency. And I know there's others of integrity and decency in White Plains. So I'm very, very blessed to be here. We want to always bless the memory of your beloved father, and we want to bless the memory of all of those in White Plains who have been victimized unfairly, no matter what color they are, but they tend to be on the chocolate side of White Plains. And we come with a moral and a spiritual veracity, really, because we have to be very vigilant about these kind of things. You've been at this now for almost a year and a half, though, right?
Yes, a little more than
a little more than a year and a half. You distinguished esquires, the lawyers who I've had a chance to meet, high quality brothers and sisters. I mean, I'm just glad to be here.
I thank you, and as I've said before, I said, are we getting support out here in White Plains? We most certainly are, but I think that the movement could be greater than what it is. We need people to understand why it's so important to be accountable on all levels, not just law enforcement and elected officials, but all levels. And I think that's very important. And I also stress that when we do hold events like this, it's not a bashing. We're not here to bash people. We're not here to say that we're anti-law enforcement or anything like that. We're just saying that if anyone commits any type of criminal act, they need to be held accountable, regardless of who it is. The law applies to everyone.
That's right. That's right. No, I think the tradition that produced yourself, produced myself, the Black Freedom Movement, we've always called for fairness. We've always called for justice for everybody. But it doesn't exclude us when we call for fairness and justice. We're open to self-criticism. We fall on our faces too as black people. Yeah. Sometimes we mistreat each other. But what is fair and what is just needs to be uplifted, especially in these days and times. And the work that you've already done in White Plains is quite a powerful force for good. And that's why, for me, I'm just blessed to be here, stand next to you, my brother.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Trust me. I'm definitely glad you're here.
Can I just ask you, can you have a bit of a conversation about what's happened with police misconduct and aggressive policing? Because since the killings in the Bronx, your father's killing, there's just been a killing in Brooklyn, and then another killing. Like, can you talk to us about what's happening to each other?
Well, I guess if from a family member who has a family member who was a victim of police violence, when people ask that question of what do I think about it, well, there's a number of different emotions that stir up in me. You know, you get the anger, you get the sadness, and then I guess you wonder why there isn't any level of accountability, and that starts at the top. No matter what you say, if the elected officials, if law enforcement at the highest levels are not disciplining these officers for these wrongdoings, then you're giving them the green light. You had a police commissioner in Mount Vernon that was trying to do that. He was trying to clean up his department, and the end result was him being terminated. When you sit back and you say, wow, so here's a person that's trying to do the right thing, who understands that in order to do good or great police work, he has to clean his own yard first. And that may mean having to get rid of some officers. Every police officer should not be a police officer. Just because you pass the test or pass the psychological doesn't mean that you're going to be a great police officer. A lot of people come in with biases. We all have some to some degree. But you cannot automatically assume or figure because you're going in a low-income neighborhood that you can treat those people any way that you want and get away with it. And that's the case, I guess, really with my father. Because I know that if he lived in a more affluent neighborhood and he said, I didn't call you, leave my door, go away, the response from the police department would have been, okay, sir, sorry to have disturbed you, and they would have left. And nothing else would be said. But because he was in a low-income neighborhood, or what they like to refer to as the projects, they felt that, well, we can do whatever we want to do here. Because most of us don't know our rights. And if we do know our rights, when we go and we try to act on it and say we want to file complaints, they divert us or steer us in the wrong direction. So, again, as I said, it starts from the top, and we have to attack that at the top in order to make the changes down at the bottom, because the police officers really are just pawns. They're not the ones calling the shots. And that's just my opinion. But
Well, I think you're right, though. I think we just stand on the principle that a life in the projects has exactly the same value as a life in any other section of Westchester County. And that's just a fundamental moral and spiritual principle that all of us ought to take seriously. There's no doubt about that. I just wish that there was more righteous indignation in the community, more moral outrage, what I would call holy anger at the mistreatment of anybody. And in that sense, it's a challenge for the community to become more awakened and more sensitive to what is going on. Thank God that we've got Reverend Pastor Odinga Maddox here at Mount Hope AME Zion Church. I think he's one of those who for 20 years in this community has been on fire with that kind of sensitivity. We need more of that kind of sensitivity in our churches. We need more in our synagogues. We need more in our mosques. And we need more on the blocks.
I agree.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to throw out one more that you can talk with each other. Can policing be reformed in this country with the history we have?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you talk to each other though?
Well, no, we can move from arbitrary policing to fair policing. It just depends on how much blood, sweat, and tears we're willing to sacrifice. But no, reform and change is always a possibility. And God is full of surprises.
And I will just say that I'm a clinician by profession. And one of the things that we understand when you're doing any type of counseling, that before you can assist somebody or help them with their problems, they have to first admit that there is a problem, that there's an issue. So this is where you have to hold the law enforcement and elected officials accountable. They have to say, yes, there is a problem with police misconduct, brutality, criminality. There is an issue. And then we can address it and move forward and say, how do we stop it? And one of the things that people have to see is you have to begin to see these police officers being charged, walking a perp line in handcuffs because they've committed a crime. I mean, really, there's really no more to it. It's difficult yet simple.
Absolutely.
Okay, one last question for you. As far as moving forward, this town hall meeting, what type of impact do you want it to have on the people here today? What do you want people to leave with?
I want people to leave, I guess, and understand that there's so much more we could all be doing in terms of this fight for justice. That we as a community have to hold ourselves accountable, because if we don't, then it will surely repeat itself again. I sadly sat in my house the other day and I said, wow, okay, it's 2013. My father was killed in 2011. And I sat there and said, wow, it's almost time for another killing. But when is it going to happen, and where is it going to happen? And what is going to be the rationale or the justification that law enforcement is going to use this time? Even with this event, I looked at some of the bloggers on some of the sites when we were talking about this event today, and someone said this should be a town hall meeting on how to be racial hustlers. Because I guess when blacks or Hispanics, when we begin to speak up and talk about these type of injustices,
all you care about is money. It's not about money. It's about sending a message. Everything burns.
MediaMarchersUnlimited.com